Welcome to Expressions. I'm your host, Zoe Olivia, guide to the growth-minded truth seeker, leader of full life transformations, and a voice for peace, wellness, abundance, and soul-based, truth-based self-love. This show is for out-of-the-box thinkers, and every episode is designed to call you forward into your greatness, your self-acceptance, and your higher purpose, as well as supporting you in your awakening journey. May you feel energized, expanded, inspired, safe, and free. Thank you for joining me. Let's go. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Expressions. I am super excited. I'm also in a peaceful state. I just wrapped up tonight's virtual masterclass, which was called Mystery, and it was really cool and a lot of fun, and I'm just excited for everything that's coming up. There's a lot of magic in the works, definitely. I debuted this thing on Eventbrite called The Essentials. So it's a collection of conscious virtual masterclasses. So I did Manifest, today I did Mystery, and I have some more coming up. So if this resonates with you, I definitely would like to have you there. I'm going to talk a little bit at the end of events I'm going to be having this and next month. So today's Monday, September 25th, and I'm going to be facilitating a little activation this weekend. If you're in Miami, check me out at Manifestival. That's going to be Saturday, September 30th, in Redlands. So it's going to be absolutely gorgeous and so much fun, and I'm very excited for that. And then on Monday, which is October 2nd, I am having my in-person journey, which I call Liberate, and that's going to be in Dania Beach. And then after that, I'm going to have another virtual one, but I wanted you guys to be, if you're in the South Florida area, to be the first to hear of those two events that I have going on. So we have Manifestival on Saturday, and we have Liberate, which is going to be so cool and just absolutely incredible and healing and expansive. That's going to be on Monday, October 2nd. So if this resonates with you, would love to have you, and I will put links to both those events in the show notes. Woo! So before we kick off, also, I want to offer, because I like this idea, if any of my events call out to you guys, whether it's in person or virtual, and you leave an honest review of the podcast of Expressions and send it to me on Instagram, your ticket for that event will be free, will be comped, will be gifted on me. Just make sure you send that over and we will go from there. I'm very grateful for all the feedback, so thank you again. Resetting, my friends. Today's, I've started, and the podcast has become a lot more fun and more playful since I kind of took the whole notion away and I just started speaking intuitively and from my heart. So most of these, if not all of these, the topic comes intuitively, what I say comes intuitively. Like right now, I'm not reading off of anything, I'm just speaking. And this idea for this podcast started to come about 2 days ago, and I wasn't 100% landing on what it was, and now I know. Today, it really came to me. So when I know, then I get on here and I record immediately. So it's really all about the notion of making sense and how I feel about it, what my invitations are for this, how we can start to move and shift ourselves and society. And that's going to start when we let go of the narrative that everything has to make sense all the time. Okay? So this was actually, interestingly, something that we spoke about today in Mystery in the virtual masterclass, and it's understanding that our heart as an organ, its functionality, yes, it is, so essential for every aspect of our existence in this physical realm, and also it has the capacity to perceive things so beyond the right here and now. So if you're listening to this and you've ever been like, I just know, and I don't know how I know, but I just know, right? That kind of higher guidance that doesn't, and like if you take that same example into the brain will be like, but it doesn't make sense, so it must not be real. The brain will be like, no, that doesn't fit in the parameters of what I deem to make sense, so I will discard the information. Like, that's kind of how it works. So what I wanted to kind of riff on today's podcast was us collectively letting go of the narrative that things have to make sense all the time. Because if you live like that, I guarantee you're going to feel stressed out. You're going to be definitely operating from a limited capacity, because it's just like the moves you're going to make, they have to fit in a like nice, neat little box, and you're going to get really freaking burnt out. And so chances are, if you found me and if you found this podcast, and if you're listening right now, you're probably either already there or you've kind of played with this before, and you kind of are calling in this to make a little bit more sense so you can do it with more frequency. So what does that mean? I mean, my friends, and you can use me and my life as just this permission slip, like, stop needing it to make sense all the time. Okay, so maybe you've heard my story, maybe not. Like, I always, growing up, drew in the lines. I was like, here's my path, and I'm going to be the best one. And, no T left, what did they say? No I left undotted, no T left uncrossed. Like, I was always just like the quote unquote perfect thing that made all the sense, and, very burnt out in my headspace, in my mind, and my mind was constantly moving and working and shifting, and God, like it was very much like that. And then where my company even started and where my career started taking off was, even though I had a quote unquote corporate career, because I'm so fancy, I had a corporate career for a while, and that was successful. For me, I really started to feel successful, like feel fulfilled, which for me is the true definition of success, when I stopped looking outside for clues and confirmation of what I was meant to be doing and for having that make sense. And I started looking inside, which, especially in the beginning, made absolutely no sense, and being okay with that. Like the things I used to think about and ponder and do, and especially when I was, very vastly, I mean, it's still creative, but I was just unlocking that. And I had all these ideas of like things that I could do and be. And I'm like, but what? This isn't corporate. Like, this isn't, what if somebody sees? Like, I had like all these like little notions of what I was supposed to do, what I quote unquote wasn't allowed to do. All these words like scam came into my brain, because if I wasn't working for like a Fortune 500 company, or if I couldn't brag about my job, or if my job didn't like land with people, then like who was I even? So that was definitely an adjustment for me, and what I pride myself on now, drastically, now more than ever and forevermore. Like, this is your permission slip to stop needing your decisions to come from a place of, it makes sense. Oh, it just makes sense. It just makes sense that I'll get the white picket fence, or I'll do X, Y, and Z. And like, sense is okay, but it's not the priority. It's like, what does your soul want to do? What does your heart want to do? Like, why are you here? And when I first started like getting into this and talking about like, oh, I'm going to start this company and help people with their potential and their magic and their transformation and their confidence, like, none of that made any sense. Like, sometimes to people it still doesn't, and that's okay, because I'm able to walk away from needing that like I used to in order to continue. I'm like, somebody just has to nod their head at me that they understand, so that I can feel validated that I'm doing the right thing. That's not why we're here. We're actually here to be the most authentic, liberated version of ourselves, and the sooner we can do that, the sooner that we can do it in all spaces, including professional, which can be the scariest, right? Because that's the one where everybody's looking at you. Like, and just allowing ourselves to be our fullness, that's when we're really walking in that permission slip for others. So that is coming up quite loud for me to talk about on the pod today. And this is likely going to be a shorter one because I really just kind of wanted to say that and sit into that and allow for us to explore that, because I don't know if you guys know this, but like we're pretty magical creatures here in this world. Like there's so much that we're able to do and access and tap into and move with and be and become and shift and change back and change into this and morph. And like if we're so caught up in everything has to make sense, first of all, to who? Like if you're really gonna play that game, you better have some magical fucking friends. And if it makes sense to them, then okay, you're in the clear, you know what I mean? But like who, if you're so caught up in things have to make sense, you're going to miss the richness of this life. You really are. Like there's going to be a portion of it that you won't see. And that's a shame, because we're really here to experience all aspects of that. And this isn't even necessarily like, I kind of want to take this conversation into modalities, because maybe you're listening to this and you have a career similar to mine, or you are inspired or want to do something kind of like this, or you're just somebody who likes personal development or professional development and you like to advance and you like to hear these things. Like getting really clear on the fact that this has to come from your heart space, and it doesn't necessarily have to add up all the time. Like I remember also I had this notion of scam. Scam was a word that came up for me. I had my own stories about that in relation to money, in relation to career, in relation to investments I had made. And that was for me also like a thing that I had to jump into, to really just allow myself to be safe, being the fullness of me, even when it didn't make sense to other people. And the more that I kind of didn't care about that, the more it actually started to make sense to people, which is hilarious. Like I would say all sorts of things. I would be in all sorts of settings of like super buttoned up fancy people talking about how magical I am. And that actually made sense to them once I owned it, versus when I was looking for their approval of like, do you get this? Do you get this when I say that I am multidimensional? Do you understand? Like that was a very different energy than like, I'm just showing up as me, not, forcing anything down anybody's throat, just kind of showing up as me and allowing for that to be okay. So yeah, that's definitely coming up. And I think making sense is just overrated. Honestly, I think making sense is just overrated. I think that structure is important. I think that systems are important. I think that, bringing order to chaos, if you want to get physics with it, is important. And so there is a space for us to have a backbone, like a structural piece. I'm just saying, don't let it get so rigid. Don't let it mask your beauty and what sets you apart and the snowflakeness of you. Allow your structure to be based in truth and expansion in what's possible, rather than this rigidity of where you are now, because that's actually not what we want. So yeah, my friends, this one is a little shorty episode. I just wanted to come on here and speak that, because I have been feeling it for a long time. And then I also think of a lot of these episodes based on the conversations I have, whether it's with people in general, like out loud in life, in events, out in the town, in my DMs, which is interestingly where a lot of fascinating conversations take place. And the questions that I'm asked, the things that resonate about me with people, or the things that people are more curious about and want to hear my perspective on. So if you're listening to this and you have something like that, bring it to me, for sure, because we're really here to lift each other up. And we really are. And so I'm grateful that you listened to this little shorty episode, and I'm excited for where things go from here, because yeah, life is not for coloring in the lines. I think both things, I know both things are true. So there is that essentialness to having that structure, to having that order. And it's also really important that we continue to expand what we perceive to be our framework. right? So one of the things I tell clients, especially, or if it's just somebody who maybe they're interested in kind of working together, or like, what is it that you do? And we're thinking of what they want to build for their life. I always say, take the walls and ceilings off. Because if you start to first ask somebody what their dreams are, they'll probably be like, they'll tell you within reach, right? Like, oh, maybe I'll get a raise, or maybe like I'll start a passion project, and that's all fine and good and dandy and completely possible. But like, what if you took off the walls and ceilings on your dreams and you started talking really out there? What if you let yourself? What if you're like, oh, I'm gonna have $2 million. My dogs are all gonna have brothers and sisters, and they're each gonna have like rainbow leashes, and we're gonna go for walks in Alaska. Like, why don't you just let yourself go there, for God's sakes? Like, go there. Let your mind go there. Let your body go there. Let your system dream again. Like, if you're listening to this, you're not a kid. So you understand responsibility. You understand adulthood. You may even be remarkably burnt out or bored or annoyed by it. How do you remedy that? Here's some free advice right now. Take the walls and ceilings off your life. Take the walls and ceilings off of what it is that you allow yourself to even think about. Take the walls off. What happens if you're in a house and you take the walls off? There's a lot more space in there. And if you take the ceiling off, there's no limit to the top. There's no limits. Okay, so yes, when we're done with this exercise, we put the walls and ceilings back on as we build you up into that vision. But for the sake of the exercise, let yourself dream a little bit. What is it that you want to do? Who is it that you want to be? Where is it that you want to go? If I asked you, if this is a call right now and I save the space, where do you want to go? Okay, now think bigger. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? Think bigger. Because when we first started, you were on level 1, and now we made it 3 times bigger. That's how you want to live your life. Think bigger. Think nonsensical. Take the walls and the ceilings off. It's the only way that you're going to get there. It's the only way that I got here. And I know this is just the beginning. So please continue to use me as a permission slip. Continue to reach out to me with questions. Continue to play in the bigness, the fullness, the magic that is you, right? That is you. We're not here to just be like, oh, here's a dream I talked about once. I'm going to just go back into my routine and play out the same patterns. No, it's time for you to step up. So take this as your invitation to stop making sense, because that's totally okay. There's nothing wrong with you. Know that I love you guys so much, and I'll talk to you soon. Again, to wrap up the events that I have this Saturday, the 30th, I have Manifestival in the Redlands, which is going to be amazing. And then Monday, we have LIBERATE in Dania Beach. So both of those, I'm going to post the Eventbrite in the show notes. I have a virtual class coming up after that. If you hear this, any of my podcasts, and you want to pursue working together in a one-on-one private client setting, let me know. Reach out to me on Instagram at the TheZoeOlivia at the Zoe Olivia, and we can discuss what that looks like if that's something that resonates with both of us. So sending you guys so much love, and I will connect with you soon.